10. Blue Mountains Bushland, New South Wales. Before the whispers of phantom travelers and ancient, watchful presences filled its valleys, the Blue Mountains Bushland was, and remains, a majestic and iconic natural wonder. Formed over millions of years, its distinctive blue haze, caused by the atmospheric scattering of light by the eucalypt oils, has long captivated observers. For tens of thousands of years, it has been the ancestral land of the Darug and Gundungurra Aboriginal peoples, a place of profound spiritual significance, with countless sacred sites, ancient pathways, and dreamtime stories woven into its very sandstone. In colonial times, it was seen as an impenetrable barrier, eventually conquered by early explorers, and later developed into a popular tourist destination, admired for its dramatic cliffs, deep valleys, and breathtaking waterfalls. The haunting of the Blue Mountains Bushland is multifaceted, stemming from its long and complex history. The sheer number of lives lived and lost within its vastness, from ancient indigenous inhabitants to early explorers who perished, bushrangers who sought refuge, and victims of countless accidents over the centuries, has left an indelible energetic imprint. Its ancient, brooding landscape, filled with hidden caves and deep ravines, naturally lends itself to tales of the mysterious. After generations of human interaction, both sacred and tragic, the Blue Mountains transformed from merely beautiful scenery into a landscape imbued with a palpable sense of the past, a place where echoes of history and deeper, more ancient presences linger. Many people report encounters with the spirits of bushrangers, particularly near old tracks and hidden caves, describing fleeting glimpses of figures in period clothing or hearing the faint jingle of spurs. There are numerous accounts of phantom hitchhikers along the winding roads that cut through the bush, who vanish from the backseat of cars. Indigenous folklore speaks of ancient ancestral spirits, often protective or mischievous, who inhabit specific rock formations or waterholes, and some visitors report feeling an overwhelming sense of being watched or a profound, unexplained spiritual presence. Hikers have described hearing disembodied whispers, faint calls for help, or the sound of footsteps following them when alone on trails. Perhaps one of the most common experiences is a pervasive sense of timelessness and a subtle disquiet, as if the ancient landscape itself holds memories and secrets that occasionally surface, making the stunning beauty of the Blue Mountains Bushland feel both awe-inspiring and deeply, mysteriously unsettling. 9. Mount Crawford Forest, South Australia. Before it became a canvas for terrifying encounters and chilling legends, Mount Crawford Forest in South Australia was primarily a commercial pine plantation and a popular recreational area. Situated in the Adelaide Hills, the land has a history of early colonial settlement, farming, and forestry, dating back to the mid-19th century. The natural eucalypt bushland coexisted with vast tracts of planted pines, creating a diverse landscape used for timber production, hiking, and camping. It was a place of quiet natural beauty, popular with families and nature enthusiasts, and held no particular notoriety for anything out of the ordinary. The haunting of Mount Crawford Forest is closely linked to its history of early colonial settlement, tragic accidents, and persistent local legends that have taken root over generations. While not associated with one single catastrophic event like some other locations, a culmination of isolated incidents, disappearances, and the chilling tale of the Mount Crawford monster, have gradually woven a fabric of fear and mystery around the forest. After decades of strange reports and unsettling folklore, the once peaceful forest has garnered a reputation as a place where things go bump in the night, and where ancient, unknown entities may reside. The most prominent folklore involves the Mount Crawford monster, a large, ape-like cryptid similar to the Yowie, with numerous alleged sightings. People report encountering a large, shadowy, bipedal figure, often accompanied by a strong, putrid smell. Beyond cryptid sightings, there are reports of more traditional ghostly phenomena. Visitors have described hearing unearthly screams or disturbing animalistic growls echoing through the trees when no apparent source is present. There are accounts of strange lights appearing and disappearing deep within the forest at night, or inexplicable sounds of disembodied footsteps and heavy breathing following hikers. Some claim to have experienced equipment malfunctions, sudden battery drain on phones, or feeling an intense sense of dread and being watched, particularly in more remote sections of the forest. The folklore suggests ancient Aboriginal spirits, perhaps disturbed by human activity, or the restless souls of early settlers who met unfortunate ends within its vastness. Mount Crawford Forest is a place where the wild beauty is subtly, yet deeply, underscored by an unnerving sense of the unknown, making every shadow and rustle a potential source of spine-tingling fear. 8. Pine Creek, Northern Territory. Before it became associated with lingering spirits and the harsh realities of the gold rush, Pine Creek in the Northern Territory was a frontier town, born out of the discovery of gold in 1871. Originally a staging post for the Overland Telegraph Line, the gold rush transformed it into a bustling, rough-and-tumble settlement attracting prospectors, Chinese laborers, and adventurers from all corners of the globe. The surrounding bushland, primarily open eucalypt forest, was a landscape of hard labor, makeshift camps, and the relentless pursuit of riches. It was a place defined by boom and bust, a testament to human resilience and desperation in the unforgiving Australian outback. The haunting of Pine Creek, and particularly its surrounding bushland, is directly tied to its tumultuous gold rush history. The sudden influx of people, the dangerous working conditions, disease, violence, and the often brutal treatment of Chinese laborers led to many deaths. Bodies were often buried in unmarked graves, sometimes hastily in the very ground they were digging. After the gold dried up and the population dwindled, the bushland was left with the energetic imprint of these past struggles. The vibrant, chaotic energy of the gold rush gave way to a pervasive sense of tragedy and unresolved business, transforming the wild landscape into a repository of forgotten souls and untold stories. Real haunted incidents and encounter details in the Pine Creek bushland often reflect the area's gold rush past. Numerous reports describe the distinct smell of old tobacco smoke or opium, even in remote areas where no one has recently been. Visitors have claimed to hear disembodied sounds of digging or the clinking of picks and shovels, seemingly echoing from phantom mines or long-abandoned diggings. There are accounts of faint, guttural coughs or pained moans carried on the wind, particularly near old burial sites or prospecting areas. Some people have seen fleeting apparitions of figures in historical attire, often described as Chinese laborers, appearing briefly between the trees before vanishing. Others report an overwhelming feeling of being watched, or sudden, inexplicable drops in temperature, especially near old stone walls or foundations of abandoned structures in the bush. Folklore suggests that the spirits of those who died tragically, or whose remains were never properly interred, are forever bound to the land where they toiled and perished, their unfinished business imprinted on the very dust of Pine Creek. 7. Ararat Bushland, near Arradale Asylum, Victoria. Before the chilling echoes of tormented souls filled its air, the bushland surrounding Arradale Asylum was simply part of the rural landscape of Ararat, Victoria. This area was typical Australian bush, primarily eucalypt forest and grasslands, serving as a natural buffer around the massive psychiatric institution that opened in 1867. For over 130 years, Arradale operated as one of Australia's largest and longest-serving asylums, housing thousands of patients, many of whom died within its walls. The bushland itself was unremarkable, perhaps used by staff or patients for occasional supervised walks, but held no inherent historical significance beyond its proximity to the imposing institution. The haunting of the Ararat bushland is inextricably linked to the dark history of Arradale Asylum. With an estimated 13,000 patient deaths occurring within the asylum during its operational years, many due to harsh conditions, experimental treatments, or suicide, the surrounding land became saturated with the lingering energy of profound suffering and despair. After the asylum closed in 1998 and transitioned into a museum and paranormal investigation site, the tales of its restless spirits began to spill out beyond the building's walls and into the adjacent bushland. The once ordinary trees and trails became an extension of the asylum's tormented past, a place where the anguish of the deceased could still be felt. Visitors and paranormal investigators report hearing disembodied whispers, faint moans, or the sound of shuffling footsteps coming from within the dense undergrowth, even when no one else is present. There are accounts of overwhelming feelings of sadness, fear, or profound anxiety washing over individuals without explanation, particularly in certain areas of the bush near the asylum's old fences or gates. People have reported seeing fleeting shadowy figures darting between the trees, or inexplicable cold spots that suddenly appear and vanish. Some have described being touched or having their hair pulled by unseen hands. Folklore suggests that the spirits of former patients, particularly those who died in distress or were buried in unmarked graves, linger in the bushland, unable to find peace, forever tethered to the place of their suffering. The bushland, silent and seemingly peaceful by day, becomes a chilling echo chamber of past trauma after dusk, a place where the tormented spirits of Arrarat's history refuse to be forgotten. 6. Black Mountain, Kalkajaka, Queensland. Before it became shrouded in a terrifying mystique and earned its foreboding name, Black Mountain, or Kalkajaka as it's known by the local Kuku-Nyunkle Aboriginal people, was an awe-inspiring natural wonder. Located in far north Queensland, it's not a single peak but a sprawling, chaotic jumble of massive granite boulders, some as large as houses, forming a unique and formidable landscape. For millennia, Kalkajaka has been a deeply sacred and profoundly significant site for Indigenous Australians, steeped in dreamtime stories that speak of powerful spirits, creation, and ancient laws. It was a place to be respected, a site of ceremony, and sometimes, a place of danger due to its labyrinthine nature. The transformation of Black Mountain into a place of dread stems from its treacherous environment and the numerous disappearances and deaths that have occurred within its depths over the past century and a half. Explorers, prospectors, and even experienced Indigenous trackers have vanished without a trace, swallowed by its hidden caves, sinkholes, and crevices. The mountain became notorious for its ability to disorient and trap, and these incidents fueled the local Kuku-Nyunkle stories of powerful, malevolent spirits guarding the mountain, protecting its secrets. After these repeated tragedies and the escalating fear they inspired, Black Mountain became more than just a geological formation. It became a living, dangerous entity, feared and respected by all who knew its dark reputation. The haunted details of Black Mountain are deeply interwoven with its Indigenous folklore. The most prominent belief is that the mountain is guarded by malevolent spirits, including the giant bat or Yowie, a creature said to snatch people from the surface, dragging them into the mountain's depths. Numerous real encounters and chilling incidents support this terrifying reputation. People who have ventured too far into the boulder field report hearing disembodied screams, often described as echoing or guttural, seeming to come from deep within the rock. Others speak of an overwhelming sense of dread, disorientation, and the feeling of being watched by unseen eyes. There are accounts of strange, high-pitched whistles or calls that seem to draw people further into the labyrinth. Many search parties have reported inexplicable equipment malfunctions, compasses spinning wildly, or feeling an oppressive sense of exhaustion that forces them to turn back. Local Kuku-Nyunkle elders advise against entering the mountain, warning that those who disrespect its sacred nature or venture unprepared will be consumed by its ancient power, forever joining the silent multitude of the lost within its impenetrable darkness. 5. Pilliga Forest, New South Wales. Before the whispers of a monstrous creature echoed through its depths, the Pilliga Forest, often referred to as the Pilliga Scrub, was simply a vast, dense, and ecologically significant semi-arid woodland in northwestern New South Wales. Covering over 3,000 square kilometers, it was and remains an important area for timber harvesting, beekeeping, and a haven for diverse wildlife, including many endangered species. For Aboriginal Australians, the Pilliga held immense cultural significance, a traditional hunting ground and a spiritual landscape. To early European settlers, it was a formidable barrier, a wild and untamed wilderness that was difficult to navigate and even harder to clear, a place of isolation and rugged beauty. The forest's haunted reputation largely stems from the pervasive and terrifying legend of the Yowie, Australia's own Bigfoot-like creature. For generations, Aboriginal Dreamtime stories spoke of large, hairy, human-like beings inhabiting the deepest parts of the bush. As European settlers pushed further into the interior, their own accounts of strange, ape-like creatures began to emerge, particularly from the more remote and untouched areas like the Pilliga. The forest's immense size, its dense and often impenetrable scrub, and its isolation made it the perfect crucible for such a legend to take root and flourish. After countless reports from diverse individuals, the Pilliga became the primary domain of the Yowie, transforming from a mere forest into a mysterious, monstrous wilderness. Numerous credible witnesses, including loggers, hunters, campers, and even families, have reported seeing large, bipedal, ape-like creatures, often described as dark-haired, powerfully built, and incredibly fast. More common are the indirect signs, inexplicable loud whooping or tree-knocking sounds echoing through the forest, a strong, foul, musky odor, similar to wet dog or rotten meat, sudden and profound silence in areas usually teeming with wildlife, and even large, unidentified footprints. There are chilling accounts of objects being thrown from unseen sources deep within the bush, or the unsettling feeling of being watched by something intelligent and powerful. Folklore suggests the Yowie are guardians of the land, ancient spirits, or perhaps a relict hominid species hiding from human encroachment. For those who venture into the Pilliga, the pervasive feeling of being in an ancient, untamed wilderness, coupled with the persistent tales of the Yowie, makes every rustle of leaves and snapped twig a source of potential terror. 4. Wycliffe Well, Northern Territory. Before it became Australia's self-proclaimed UFO capital, Wycliffe Well was simply a remote cattle station and, later, a vital stop along the Stuart Highway in the Northern Territory. Its history is tied to the development of the telegraph line in the late 19th century, serving as a bore and watering point for drovers and travellers making the arduous journey across the vast Australian outback. It was a place of quiet solitude, endless horizons, and the stark beauty of the Red Desert, known primarily for its strategic location and the relief it offered to weary travellers in an otherwise desolate landscape. The transformation of Wycliffe Well into a hub of paranormal interest began during World War II, when soldiers stationed there began meticulously recording strange lights and unexplained aerial phenomena in their war diaries. After the war, these sightings continued and even escalated, particularly from the 1970s onwards. As more and more people reported consistent UFO activity, Wycliffe Well embraced its unique reputation. The roadhouse proudly displays alien-themed paraphernalia, turning the entire area into a quirky, alien-obsessed roadside attraction. After decades of consistent sightings, the once ordinary rest stop became synonymous with extraterrestrial visitation, drawing enthusiasts and skeptics alike. Wycliffe Well's haunted details are overwhelmingly centered on UFO encounters rather than traditional ghostly apparitions. Hundreds, if not thousands, of people claim to have witnessed unexplained lights, fast-moving objects, and even structured craft in the night sky. These aren't just isolated incidents. The frequency and consistency of sightings are what make Wycliffe Well unique. Real encounter details often describe silent, fast-moving lights performing impossible maneuvers, or large, unlit objects hovering silently before disappearing at incredible speed. Some witnesses report strange electromagnetic interference with their vehicles or equipment, or even brief periods of lost time during or after a sighting. Local folklore suggests that Wycliffe Well sits on a unique energy ley line, or perhaps it's a designated landing strip for extraterrestrial visitors due to its remote location and clear skies. While not ghostly in the conventional sense, the pervasive belief in non-human intelligence and the consistent reports of anomalous phenomena create a deeply unsettling and mysterious atmosphere, making Wycliffe Well truly haunted by the unknown. 3. Hanging Rock, Victoria. Before it became shrouded in a veil of mystery and cinematic intrigue, Hanging Rock was a geological marvel, a striking volcanic mamelon rising abruptly from the flat plains of central Victoria. Formed over 6 million years ago when viscous lava pushed up through a narrow vent, then cooled and eroded into its distinctive, column shape, it was originally known by the local Dja Wurrung, Taungurung, and Wurundjeri Aboriginal peoples as Mount Diogenes. It was a significant landmark, a hunting ground, and possibly a ceremonial site. Later, in colonial times, it was admired for its unique beauty and became a popular spot for picnics and leisurely outings, a natural amphitheater offering panoramic views of the surrounding countryside. The pivotal moment that transformed Hanging Rock from a natural curiosity into a haunted enigma was the publication of Joan Lindsay's 1967 novel, Picnic at Hanging Rock, and its subsequent iconic 1975 film adaptation. While the story of the disappearance of 3 schoolgirls and their teacher during a picnic in 1900 is fictional, its powerful and unsettling narrative deeply embedded itself in the Australian psyche. After the book and film, Hanging Rock became inextricably linked with the idea of inexplicable disappearances, forgotten time, and a pervasive, otherworldly presence. It became a place where the ordinary could suddenly become profoundly unsettling. Though the central mystery is fictional, the enduring popularity of the Picnic at Hanging Rock narrative has undoubtedly amplified and shaped real-world encounters and local folklore. Visitors often report a profound sense of unease, a feeling of being disoriented or losing track of time while exploring the rock formations. There are numerous accounts of strange atmospheric changes, sudden, inexplicable fogs rolling in, or peculiar light phenomena. Some claim to have heard faint, disembodied whispers or giggling sounds, particularly near the area known as the Saddle, where the fictional girls were last seen. Others describe feeling an overwhelming compulsion to wander off the marked paths, or a chilling sensation of being watched by unseen eyes. The folklore suggests that the rock itself possesses an ancient, perhaps malevolent, consciousness, a spirit of the land that resents intrusion, or that the events of the fictional story have somehow permeated the fabric of reality at the site, leaving an indelible imprint of mystery and lost souls. Whether supernatural or psychological, the unsettling atmosphere of Hanging Rock is undeniably palpable. 2. Devil's Pool, Babinda Boulders, Queensland. Before it earned its ominous moniker and became a place steeped in tragedy, Devil's Pool, nestled within the spectacular Babinda Boulders, was a pristine natural wonder. Formed by the relentless flow of Babinda Creek, the area is characterized by a series of massive granite boulders, smooth and rounded by millennia of water erosion, creating breathtaking cascades, deep pools, and rushing rapids. Historically, it was a sacred site for the local Yidinji Aboriginal people, a place of immense spiritual significance where ceremonies were performed, and the land was revered. The landscape, with its lush rainforest and crystal-clear waters, was seen as a living entity, a place of power and natural beauty. However, over time, the beauty of Devil's Pool became overshadowed by its treacherous nature. The smooth rocks are deceptively slippery, and the powerful, turbulent currents in the deep pools are notorious for dragging people under. Since 1959, an astonishing 17 people, predominantly young men, have drowned here, turning this once revered site into a mournful landmark. After these repeated tragedies, the site earned its chilling name, Devil's Pool, and the folklore surrounding it intensified, forever linking the place to sorrow and a mysterious, malevolent force. The most enduring and widely known folklore of Devil's Pool revolves around the legend of Ulana. As the story goes, Ulana was a beautiful Yidinji woman from the Yindinji tribe who fell deeply in love with a man from another tribe, a forbidden love. They eloped and fled to the Babinda Boulders. When her own tribe caught up to them, her lover was captured and taken away. Distraught, Ulana threw herself into the treacherous waters of the creek, crying out for her lover to return. Her spirit, consumed by grief and longing, is said to have transformed into a powerful entity that lures young men to their watery graves, forever searching for her lost love. Numerous credible encounters fuel this legend. Visitors have reported hearing an unearthly wailing or whispering sounds over the roar of the water, a mournful cry that seems to beckon them closer. Some claim to have seen fleeting, shadowy figures or felt an inexplicable urge to enter the water, even when conditions are clearly dangerous. The local indigenous community warns against disrespecting the site, believing that Ulana's spirit, restless and heartbroken, remains a formidable presence, her tragic tale woven into the very fabric of the Babinda Boulders. 1. Belanglo State Forest, New South Wales. Before the shadows lengthened and whispered tales of terror, Belanglo State Forest was simply a vast expanse of pine and eucalypt, a working forest, primarily known for its timber production and as a quiet spot for off-roading or camping. It held no particular historical significance beyond its natural beauty and ecological role in the New South Wales landscape. For many years, it was just another part of rural Australia, silent save for the rustle of leaves and the calls of native birds. But then, the unthinkable happened. From 1992 to 1993, Belanglo State Forest became a name synonymous with unimaginable horror. It was here that the remains of 7 young backpackers, murdered by serial killer Ivan Milat, were discovered. This dark chapter indelibly scarred the forest's reputation. After these gruesome discoveries, the forest transformed in the public consciousness from a peaceful natural area into a chilling, haunted graveyard. The very air seemed to thicken with a palpable sense of dread. Since the Milat murders, countless stories have emerged from those brave or perhaps foolhardy enough to venture deep into Belanglo. Visitors report an overwhelming feeling of being watched, an intense sense of unease that goes beyond the typical creepiness of a dense forest. Some claim to have heard disembodied screams echoing through the trees, faint and chilling, reminiscent of the victim's last moments. Others speak of inexplicable cold spots, even on warm days, or the sudden, overwhelming scent of decay when no source is evident. There are tales of strange lights flickering between the trees at night, or the unsettling sensation of phantom footsteps following closely behind. Local folklore whispers of the spirits of the victims, unable to rest, forever trapped within the silent, somber pines of Belanglo, their energy imprinted upon the very earth where their lives were so cruelly taken. It's a place where the veil between worlds feels terrifyingly thin, a stark reminder of the darkness that once unfolded here.